On today's Locked On Senators, this morning the organization announced its third member of the Ring of Honor will be inducted on Sunday, and it might not be who you expect.
And the Ottawa Senators have 2 games coming up this weekend on the road against the Devils and at home against the Edmonton Oilers.
We'll get into all that, and maybe, just maybe, we'll talk about last night's 5-2 loss. We'll get into all that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 1008 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Friday, March 22nd, and Pilsy, I know you're not a doctor, but you certainly respect them, right?
Of course, Ross, especially Dr. Donald Chow, who will be the third member inducted into the Ottawa Senators Ring of Honor.
And Dr. Chow has been with the organization since day one. That's over 30 years, over 2,000 NHL games, and a whole laundry list of other accomplishments, being the NHL's doctor at both the 2010 and 2014 Olympics, being the chief medical officer at the World Juniors when it was held in Ottawa in 2009. And we had to reach out to our guy, Mark Mathot, because let's be honest, there's not a whole lot out there on the docks. These are the behind the scene workers that make the whole organization tick. And Math had some great lines. One, we're a hashtag goalie friendly show. Pilsy, yes. I know you love seeing that Dr. Chow used to strap the pads on in practice when they needed an extra goalie last minute.
Well, Dr. Chow is going to be at the game on Sunday when he's inducted into the Ring of Honor.
E-Bug?
No.
Starter?
Like, what are we doing? Get him in there.
Technically, he's already under contract by the Senators.
Hey, if you want to be in the Ring of Honor, you got to go the extra mile to earn it. So that imagine that's one little stipulation. They're like, hey, we need you to play Tendy on Sunday.
I think this is a nice move for the Ottawa Senators to do, though, because, look, obviously it's been a utter disappointment on the ice this season.
Yep.
But I do think this is a great way to celebrate excellence, celebrate the best-in-class mantra that, of course, was quick to come out of the owner, Michael Andlauer's statement. I almost said out of his mouth. It was a written statement. During this Dr. Chow induction, but which, by the way, will happen before the game Sunday evening at Canadian Tire Center. And I'm sure Chris Neal will have something to say, because the way that Don Chow probably had to battle through some injuries with not only Neal, but Phillips and the two guys who are still around the organization who you feel like, battled for over 1,000 games. And they'd be the first to tell you that without Dr. Chow, they're probably not reaching these milestones because of the way that his job is basically to make sure that these athletes are ready to go. And when things happen, which they do, like when Meth had his finger chopped off by Sidney Crosby, one of the notes from Meth is he sewed my finger back together.
Hey, that's an important guy there. Meth almost lost his entire finger there because of 87. And Ross, assistant coach Daniel Alfredson, probably has some good Dr. Chow stories as well. And I think this is obviously the timing of this is pretty good. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see one of our 3 notes is no regulation wins in an entire month.
Spoiler.
So I think the Ottawa Senators are trying to shine the spotlight away from on the ice and to off the ice, which I don't blame them. And also, Ross, when
if you can't win with nostalgia.
Yeah.
Although maybe a doctor's a little bit different. It's not, like on ice memories. Hey, remember how quick he rushed out there to get that injured player?
Hey, the players probably appreciate it, and
big time. And they're going to appreciate having those be the line of questionings after practice today as well. What does Dr. Chow mean to you? And look, we're not taking anything away. This is unbelievable. One, to be at the same career, job, profession, to work in one place. I know he's had a ton of other honors, and he's obviously got more going on than just with the Ottawa Senators. He was the team doctor for the Ottawa Lynx back when they were the Montreal Expos farm team. Like, this guy is a community icon in Ottawa in the medical community. There's no question about that. But in terms of the timing of it, certainly when you're losing, it's good to honor things and kind of up the morale.
And this goes right into Michael Andlauer kind of putting his money where his mouth is, right? When he was inducted, when he won the bid to get the team, and he did, his first big press conference, one of the things he really nailed home, he had all the employees there, and he's like, all right, like you guys are all my employees here, and I'm going to take care of you. He said he really focused on the fact that he wants to make this a good place to work. He talked about the concession stand people, the ushers, things like that. So this is Michael Andlauer saying, look, I know we're a professional ice hockey team, but there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes. And this is such a kind of ecosystem of people that make everything work for the Ottawa Senators. And a team doctor that's been there since day one is a big part of that and deserves to be recognized. So I think this is a nice move by Michael Andlauer. Focus away from what's happening on the ice and give some credit where credit is due. And Dr. Chow, from everything we've seen and heard, seems like a guy that is deserving of this honor.
It's going to be a real honor, I'm sure, for his entire family. Dr. Chow was born and raised in Thunder Bay, Ontario, went to Queen's, obtained his MD in 1981, and has been in Ottawa on staff at the Civic Hospital in spinal and orthopedic trauma surgery since 1988. Pilsy got his diploma of sports medicine in 1990. So we already gave some of his honors: the 2009 World Junior Hockey Championships, chief medical officer, NHL's physician at 2 Olympic Games. He also was a member of the Ontario Race Physicians, so he was covering like Indy races and all that sort of thing as well. Mentioned the Ottawa Lynx, also the Ottawa Rough Riders and Renegades CFL team. So a great member of the organization will be honored, Dr. Donald Chow. And thank goodness that Dr. Chow is still with us. Some people might remember back in 2010, he was in a horrific crash where he was on a motorcycle. A car cut him off. And according to the news article at the Ottawa CTV that I'm reading from August 30th, 2010, he was in critical condition, and an area resident who was going by said they saw a man flying through the air. Jeez. So he was fighting for his own life 13, 14 years ago from right now, and was able to make a full recovery. So great to see. And the last note that I'll say from Matt is this guy listens to Metallica while he's performing surgery, which I feel like probably isn't on most doctors' playlists.
Hey, whatever it takes to get in the zone, he just pops on some Metallica songs and he's just ready to roll.
Why do I have a preconception that doctors listen to classical music? Like as they're doing surgery, like da na 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 na, just feathering it through. Like, am I out to lunch? Let me know, docs.
Yeah, as you know, Brandon Piller, not a doctor. I'm not aware of what playlists look like for heart surgery or back surgery or whatever it is.
So congratulations to Dr. Donald Chow. He joins an illustrious trio of Brian Murray and Wade Redden as members of the Ring of Honor. On the other side, well, who should round out the Mount Rushmore? The first 4 of the Ring of Honor. Let's have that conversation, and then we'll turn our attention to on the ice for the Sens heading in to a 2-game weekend. at the New Jersey Devils, home to the Edmonton Oilers. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. No matter how the last game went, which is poorly, anytime you take the field, you got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one easy place. It's the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have job requirements, or you don't pay. It's easy. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites with 17 different tabs on your computer, hoping to find candidates with the right skills, just do it all with one powerful hiring partner that can help you through it. Indeed helps you in every step of the process. You have Indeed Instant Match, you got assessments and virtual interviews. With Indeed Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates. Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent. According to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. They deliver 4 times more hire than all other job sites combined. Join 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. Go check out our friends right in the heart of the Glebe at Glebe Central Pub. You can't miss it when you're walking down Bank Street. It is the best place to go grab a bite, go grab a pint, and be with friends and be among friends. Even if you're heading there and you're not sure whether it's just going to be for a moment or a memory, make sure to head to 779 Bank Street and check out online too. They've got all sorts of great events going on at the pub, whether it's trivia night, whether it's wing night, taco night. There's always something going on, and they're pretty good at letting you know on social media. So if you follow them, Glebe Central Pub, you'll find out the beers of the day. You'll find out when the live music is going down. It's always a vibe at the Glebe Central Pub. The traveling Pillsburys, the Pillsburys, will be there this weekend performing on both Saturday and Sunday night. And then you can also check out next weekend, March 30th, Chris Morris will be at the Glebe Central Pub. So go check them out, and also go grab tickets for Sunday's bus. The bus goes right to the CTC, $17 round trip. That's a great deal. Go
for
check
Dr. Chow's Ring of Honor night. Get on the shuttle.
Get on the shuttle and get to the CTC. $17. Get your tickets, GlebeCentralPub.com. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pillsy, a nice welcome distraction today for the Ottawa Senators and their fan base, really, as we can put aside the product on the ice. The Senators have lost 3 in a row. They haven't won in regulation in exactly a month, since February 22nd, where they beat the Dallas Stars. And they didn't just beat the Dallas Stars, Pillsy. They dominated that game up against Dallas. And Dallas is one of the best teams in the league. So you look at that and how far the mighty have fallen. That they got the overtime loss the game before that against the Florida Panthers, who could be winning the President's Trophy this year. They went into Tampa and won that game. We were feeling pretty good. We were even feeling good after the Senators left that game and got the shootout win in the next game against Vegas. So it's been a free fall from then. But before we get into that more, Pillsy, I want to discuss the 4th member of the Ring of Honor. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but who should be next? Because we've got 3. So who's that initial Mount Rushmore when you look at the fact that it's not going to be Alfie, it's not going to be Chris Neal or Chris Phillips, as those 3 have their jerseys hanging in the rafters.
Or Frank Finnegan.
Frank Finnegan. Shout out Frank Finnegan. Who's going to be 4th?
4th should be number 41. Craig Anderson. Hashtag goalie friendly show. We've had the discussion about Craig Anderson a bunch of times. I feel like people are split on whether he should be Ring of Honor or jersey retired. I fall onto the Ring of Honor side, especially now that he's no longer in the NHL. I think it'd be a good time to do that. He's by far the leader in almost every single statistical category for the Ottawa Senators. So I think it's about time he gets honored. So Craig Anderson would be my fourth guy, Ross.
That's a great pick. I think he gets in, but I don't know if that's something that I'm rushing to do. You know who I'm rushing to put up there, especially after kind of the whirlwind of this season? Not going to be the head coach next year. Jacques Martin should be the next person in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, Jacques Martin and Brian Murray up there would be a pleasant sight for Sens fans.
All-time winningest coach in Sens history. I know he comes back and it didn't go the way anybody would want. You can tell that he's frustrated with this group. But he's 71 years old.
Yeah.
And what he did in his first go-around would be enough to get him up there. But I think showing that passion and loyalty to want to come back and want to, at his age, be in the heat of day in, day out, being a head coach in the NHL for the betterment of the organization moving forward, wanting to be that initial learner or teacher to help these kids learn what it's going to take to be winners at the NHL level. I think Jacques Martin, it would be a very nice feather in his cap, as after this season, we expect this to be the last handful, 14 games of him being a head coach in the NHL. I think it would be a perfect way to kind of close that chapter, but also have him kind of, once you're in the Ring of Honor, I feel like it's a management role, that's awaiting Jacques Martin for the years to come. So he would be my top choice as the next guy in the Ring of Honor.
I like that. I hadn't thought of that. I overlooked that. So that's a good one, Ross. Nice.
Okay. I will say, though, Danny Heatley needs to be in there at some point.
Nah.
It's easy to say, and I get it. The way he left was not great, but you can't tell the story of the Ottawa Senators franchise without Danny Heatley.
I think I put Spets in there before Heatley.
Yeah, no.
Right?
I think we talked about this before. They should literally just put a slice of pizza up there, because all-time Sens leaders, season leaders, Pilsy, it's littered. The only 50 goal scorer in franchise history is Danny Heatley, and he did it back-to-back.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I respect what Danny Heatley did, but I just feel like it would be weird to put him in before Spezza.
No, I agree with that. Together would be
Spezza
cool.
was a captain for one season. Remember that?
Yeah, that was like the most disappointing season of all time.
Crazy.
2013-14, forgettable year.
Yeah,
and it could have gotten even worse the year after he left, but old Hamburglar had to come out of the mix. And that's where it's like, is this a lifetime achievement award? And if it is, that's cool. I totally understand it. But like the Ring of Honor, I would put Andrew Hammond in just because that moment is going to go down as one of the top moments in franchise history. You cannot recreate a 21-2 record for a guy who had a sub 900 save percentage in the minors when he got called up. I don't think he ever gets in, and I get it. He got a 3-year contract from it. I think that's pretty good.
Couple mil.
I think it's more of a lifetime achievement award, which is why I don't think Danny Heatley ever gets in either. But he's got the first and second best goal scoring seasons. He's got the franchise record for most points in a season. I don't know. Maybe I just want Danny Heatley to be back in the mix somehow. At least
so
not have
interview.
this white whale for the interview for sure.
Ross, if they do the pizza slice thing that we're talking about, next to it, just a cheeseburger.
I like
the
that.
pizza line and the Hamburglar run.
Right beside it. Yeah, it's like the concession area of the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, exactly.
And hey, if Noodles calls 5,000 games, you can put Noodles up there too.
Love it.
Oh, man. So let us know in the comments who should be the next member of the Ring of Honor. Some great options. You got Craig Anderson is a great one, Pilsy. On ice, I think that Spezza would probably be next, and rightfully so. I still hold out hope that one day, out of the 3 100-point seasons the Sens have ever had, 2 of them were Danny Heatley, the only 50-goal seasons. It's just a shame the way it ended. And then if I'm going to go with one more, is there even one? Are there other real options?
Nothing's. I don't really have an idea for any off ice people that would be there.
No, and there are a lot of people who have been day one employees of the Ottawa Senators, right? And
Ross, when Dean and Gord retire.
easily. Great call. Great call. Dean and Gord going up there, and like there's some just duos, right? That you think of them together, and yeah, that's a great call. We'll leave it with that because Dean and Gord would be absolute great class act calls for the Ring of Honor one day once they're done, because they're still in their prime. They're still crushing it every broadcast. So let us know. Like, here's what I'll ask you though, Pilsy. Okay. Would you put in guys who have big moments, but maybe not the big body of work? Because I'm thinking of a guy, and when you said Dean and Gord, that's where I start thinking about this. Because where are you going to build the statue? Would Jean-Gabriel Pageau, for the ultimate playoff moments that he had, 4 goals, that's absolutely sick. Like, or is that something that you put like a plaque in the arena somewhere and have like a wall of like, playoff performers or something like that? Because to me, Pageau and Kyle Turris each had some big moments with this team.
Yeah, agreed. I think you got to have the body of work's got to be there, so Pageau doesn't quite cut it, neither Turris. But they have in the Club Bell area something sick like brag. That, right? Not a big deal. They have like the 5 toughest guys and things like that. So you could do like best Sens moments or eras or whatever that you want to honor guys like that, I think.
Yeah, I like that. All right, sweet. So let us know in the comments about the Ring of Honor. Who's next for you? And what are your thoughts on who we believe should be next for the Ottawa Senators? We also posted it on Twitter at Sens Central if you want to take a scroll through and see all the great replies. All right, Pilsy, on the other side, weekend preview. It's another weekend back-to-back. No rest for the weary. Second consecutive weekend where the Senators play back-to-back games, which means for us, Locked On Senators, that means what? 20 straight days with a show?
20 straight days with at least one show. Yeah.
Let's preview them next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Say goodbye to your busted brackets. I'm sure everyone's bracket is already busted like mine. The Kentucky loss ruined my bracket.
Not me, Pilsy. The Kentucky loss was great for me because yesterday I put $5 responsibly on every single underdog, and I am down. So all of those games combined to be, I believe, $100, and I'm at 92 now.
Okay, so
I basically broke even, but I got all the excitement in the world.
So Ross, everybody knows, dog guy, underdog Ross right here. Follow along with Ross's underdogs, and you can have some joy watching this tournament go on. My Kentucky losing really ruined my bracket, so I'm a little bit down in the dumps. I wish I would have followed Ross's strategy and went to FanDuel, where I can bet on each individual game, so I don't have to worry about how the bracket's going. And you only want to do it on America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, underdogs, money lines, over-unders, or you can invest in some futures. Who's going to win it all? You can do all of that at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut the nets down.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Farm to Fork. Go visit farmtoforkdelivery.ca for all your premium meat and seafood needs. I know it's taken a bit of a cold turn the last week, but barbecue season is coming up, and there's no better way to get the freezer filled with all-natural beef, antibiotic-free, hormone-free, grass-fed beef, all available to you at farmtoforkdelivery.ca. If you go to their website, you'll see all sorts of specials. The prime rib burgers are great. You get 10 burgers for only $40. And because you're a listener of Locked On Senators, LOSP will just cut 10% off of your total as well. They've got the my favorite is their freezer stuffers, where it's just like, okay, you're getting a bit of everything. That's what we love as gifts too. They make great gifts. Who doesn't want the gift of meat in their life? They also have sustainable seafood, and not only is it delicious, go check out all their 5-star reviews on Google. Average 5.0. That's average perfect on Google, but you can also get it delivered directly to your door. So what they'll do, they have their days. You get the delivery date while you make your purchase. LOSP 10 gets you 10% off at farm2forkdelivery.ca. And then they'll get a text the morning of and say, hey, they're on the way. It's going to be within this hour. And they'll bring it right to your door. All set, bingo, bango, bongo, and you can have the freshest, most delicious meats and have it pulled whenever you need. You don't have to go to the grocery store. You don't want to know how long that meat has just been sitting there. You want fresh, you want local, you want farm2forkdelivery.ca. So go taste the farm to fork difference. You will never go back to grocery store meats. All right, Pillsy, want to give a quick shout out to our friends at Farm to Fork Delivery. Our guy Derek was over at the EY Center Thursday through Sunday, so he's there this weekend. So nice. Go see him at booth 105 and go learn about Farm to Fork. Pillsy, it's no joke. We eat it whenever we're in Ottawa. We're always a fan. I make sure my parents' freezer's stocked up, and it's always delicious.
Oh, yeah, and good friends of the show. We always like to treat them with a Farm to Fork package. Mark Mathott's going to have ground beef and hot dogs for months now.
So we wanted to get Matt a bunch of ground beef. His request. Usually we like to.
Yeah, we were like, we're going to get you some nice steaks. Like, we're going to treat you. And he's like, nah, guys, just as much ground beef as you can get me.
But then we thought it'd be funny if we threw in 72 hot dogs as well.
For the kids.
For the kids. Hey, we're a kids show here, Locked On Senators. So no regulation wins in the last month for the Sens. But at the same time, you're like, ugh, they got all these shootout and overtime wins. You know, the Sens are the best team, tied, funny enough, with the team that beat them last night, the St. Louis Blues, as the best overtime teams in the NHL. 9-4, the Senators' overtime and shootout record this year. So,
hang the banner.
If you only played 3-on-3 in shootouts, the Senators might be in contention for the President's Trophy.
Real men play 3-on-3.
Oh, man, what a moment here we are in Senators history. I get it. A lot of people are sick and tired of the product that they've seen on the ice. The Sens have allowed the first goal in 18 of their last 23 games, Belsey. Like,
it's past being a joke. Like, it's now a matter of fact.
Since I said you're leaving money on the table if you're not betting the other team to score first, the Senators have allowed the first goal in every single game.
But, Ross, what we got to start doing now, since it's so automatic, Pillsy's parlay. Bet the team to the opponent to score first, parlayed with team that scores first wins the game. Boom.
Okay. That's so sad that this is where we're at, but there's some gambling advice responsibly from our guy Pillsy. So later this morning, the Ottawa Senators will be on the ice. It's an 11:30 practice at Canadian Tire Center, and we're recording this early. It's just before 10 a.m. right now, so we're going to go based off of last night's lines that saw Shane Pinto at center between Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson, Tim Stützle between Parker Kelly getting a shot in the top six with Claude Giroux, Ridley Gregg with Zach Ostapchuk and Mathieu Joseph, and then Mark Kastlik with Boris Kachuk and Dominic Kubalik. On the back end, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot with Eric Brandstrom, Jacob Chikrin with Jacob Bernard Docker or Travis Hamonic, take your pick, and then Anton Forsberg, Eunice Corpusalo in goal. So we expect that to be the lineup against the New Jersey Devils, but of note, Angus Crookshank was called up by the Sens to potentially play last night. Claude Giroux was feeling under the weather. Ironically, I thought Giroux was very solid. He could have had a couple goals in the first period. Joel Hofer made a great shoulder save, especially on a high slot chance there. But Angus Crookshank up right now. I kind of want him to go back for the weekend, though, because Belleville's got a big series against the Laval Rocket this weekend and next. We know he's the perfect guy for rivalry games, and they're going to need that. But, Billsy, the one question I'll ask you is, Parker Kelly, you keeping him in the top six over the weekend?
Yeah, I think so. Parker Kelly is not a top six guy, but I feel like he is one of the players that has earned the right to have an elevated role here. So I don't mind it. And he works hard out there. You can't deny that. Sure, he might not be the most skilled guy, but he works hard to get the puck. And if he can get it to Timmy and Claude Giroux, that line could have success in the short term. So, yep, sticking with that. And speaking of which, Ross, my locked on player for the weekend is going to be Claude Giroux. In the last 6 games, he has 5 points, 1 goal, 4 assists, so not bad. But Ross, the issue is in his last 18 games, he only has 1 goal. So he's shooting at a 3.2% clip here. 18 games, 1 goal, 10 assists for 11 points. So let's how about Parker Kelly gets the puck, feeds it to Claude Giroux, and he starts burying it here.
Well, he technically has 1 goal, but that shootout slap shot should count for about 5.
Yeah, sure.
My locked on player for the weekend is going to be Ridley Gregg, moving back to center. I thought was a great move for him. And I think that having Joseph on his line, they've been most successful together this year. Obviously, they don't have Tarasenko anymore to round out that line. They've got a rookie instead, and Ostapchuk had that initial, running on adrenaline first couple games. I think it's been a bit more of a battle, and you expect that, as last night was, I believe, his 6th, if not 7th game. But good experience for Ostapchuk, and I think that him moving to the wing is the right move. So I'm going to be locked on to that Ridley Gregg, Zach Ostapchuk, and Matthew Joseph line this weekend.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like Ridley Gregg and Zach Ostapchuk are similar in the way that I think they can play center, but ultimately long-term, I think it will be better for them, at least in the early stages of their career, to get some time on the wing. So I like having Ostapchuk move to the wing, and Gregg a little bit more experienced in the NHL than Ostapchuk. He moves back to center. Good call, Ross.
So the Devils, 34, 32, and 4. A disappointing year for the Devils as well, who will be on the outside looking in come playoffs. They've had some tough injuries, of course, and here's how they line up in tomorrow's game. This is, of course, subject to change. The Devils have Nico Hischier as their number 1 center, with Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt on the wings, Eric Haula between Jack Hughes and Alexander Holtz. You have Thomas Nosek with Andre Palat and Dawson Mercer, and a 4th line with 2 #Sens abroad, Chris Tierney at center, Curtis Lazar at right wing, and then Curtis McDermott at left wing. On defense, it's Luke Hughes with Nick DeSimone. You've got Kevin Ball, former Ottawa 67, with Brendan Smith. And then Hataka is with Simon Nemec. He, the 2nd overall pick in the 2022 draft. In goal, either Jake Allen or we've got Capo Kakinen, who just traded there from the San Jose Sharks. The Devils did at the deadline what I think a lot of Sens fans were hoping the Sens could do. They just said, yeah, our goaltending's been bad. Let's just get 2 new ones.
Yeah, and it's funny because they didn't exactly improve that much. Like Allen's not having a great year in Kakinen, albeit he was playing with the Sharks, so you got to take that into consideration. But these goalies aren't a whole lot better, but they're just like, we're done with the goalies we've had. And it's crazy, Ross, though, because sure, Vitek Vanacek, his numbers were not very good. Save percentage and goals against with the Devils this year, 3.81 goals against, 890 save percentage. But he had a 17-9-3 record. Like, you're still getting dubs somehow. So I'm kind of surprised they fully moved on from him. But it's going to be interesting to see how this team does moving forward. My lookout player is going to be Timo Meier. Timo Meier got a massive extension with the New Jersey Devils after he was acquired in the trade deadline. And he started off this season very poorly. But the last 20 games, he's really cleaned things up. 13 goals, 9 assists, good for 22 points and a +2 rating. But before that, in 37 games, he only had 9 goals, 10 assists, and was a -25. So he's really turned things around here. So you got to watch out for number 28, Timo Meier.
Okay, nice. For my lookout player, I'll go with... I'll go Jack Hughes just because I was shocked to see him on the wing. I think to me, it's kind of, I don't know, a bit of an indictment on the way that his season's gone. He's still racking up points and he's still an electric player. But I think for me, seeing Jack Hughes anywhere but at the number 1 center position, to me, was shocking. He's got 4 points in his last 2 games. He's coming off 2 goals against the Jets on Thursday night. So The Sens are in New Jersey on Saturday, and a special Locked On player is going to be Pinto's boys if they're there, because I don't know if they were there in Long Island. It was an afternoon game, too, day before St. Patty's Day, so you thought they would have been front and center, but it was last year in New Jersey that they really got the ball rolling, having a good time. So let's see if they do it. It'll be a Saturday evening game for the Ottawa Senators, 7 o'clock start in New Jersey, and then on Sunday, they will take on the Edmonton Oilers at home. Story of the game, of course, Don Chow being inducted into the Sens Ring of Honor, but Pillsy, Connor McDavid, among all players with more than 11 games played against the Ottawa Senators, is first. I should say, though, the most points per game against Ottawa will be in the lineup tomorrow night. It's Luke Hughes, who has 3 points in one game against the Senators. Mike Ridley, had to look him up, has 23 points in 11 games. And then, Connor McDavid with 40 points in 23 games against the Ottawa Senators.
Draisaitl McDavid just feasted on the Senators in the All-Canada division a couple years ago. That was insane. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that anymore.
Those guys are just in a world of their own. 23 games, 33 points for Leon Draisaitl during that span. So it's going to be, a tough task, because Edmonton, they got off to such a slow start that they're still in kind of catch-up mode to where they believe they can be as a team. They are currently in second place in the Pacific Division, kind of in no man's land. They're 5
no man's land, second in their division.
No man's land in terms of like they're 8 points back of Vancouver and they're 5 points up on LA.
Oh, so they're kind of locked into that spot.
Exactly. Whereas second place in the Central is tied with first and tied with third.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit different in the Pacific Division. But the Oilers are 7-1-2 in their last 10 and just dominate the Ottawa Senators over the last number of years. So it'll be fun. It's always fun when McDavid comes to town, though, and I'm sure a lot of families will be there. It's a Sunday evening game. Note the start time. It is a 6 o'clock start on Sunday.
Yep. I don't have any final thoughts, Ross. Let's move on.
Final thoughts. Belleville Senators, Laval Rockets.
Nice.
Huge games this weekend. Belleville 3 points up on Laval. Laval on the outside looking in for a playoff spot, but then Belleville's also close to third. So huge weekend for standings jockeying for the Belleville Sens. So we'll break that down on Monday. Back-to-back postcasts this weekend. Yeah. Wow, let's ride it out. 14 games left. Pillsy, you and I will be boots on the ground for 3 of the remaining 14 games. Let us know in the comments, too, if there's anything that you'd like from us of our coverage throughout the rest of the season. These are the definition of meaningless games, but we will be here to entertain and have a few laughs along the way. For today, we say goodbye. Have a great start to your weekend, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. Lots of great content this week. If you want more, we've got the evolution of Tim Stützle, great interview with John Abbott, and a whole lot more. The postcast was a laugh last night, too. Win or lose, we'll make sure that we put a smile on and have some fun at the very least. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.